Gyre is one of the best electric DPS nukers in the game, and she just got a new augment that turns her into a ball-fondling nuke frame. I know that sounded weird, but that's exactly what it is. And you can also nuke enemies while playing a nice game of soccer, football, whatever you want to call it. What's good, folks? It's NightmareFrame here with a new Warframe video covering the new Gyre augment, Coil Recharge. Now, the best part about this new Gyre build is that it uses the same polarities as the one I released recently, a Gyre build focused on her 4th ability with insanely high KPM. Do go check that out if you're interested in a different playstyle that still nukes. As for her new augment, it is for her 2nd ability, Coil Horizon, which is also her Helminth ability, so you can technically use this on other Warframes. However, just note that it won't crit on other Warframes because Gyre is the only Warframe that currently can make her ability damage crit through electric status effects. Coil Horizon isn't the best of abilities. It does have some of the weirdest physics in the game, but it is an okay grouping ability. The major cons of this ability is that, of course, it does have weird physics and problems with line of sight with its sucking properties. The pros is that it's a useful ragdoll grouping tool with decent range and does a little bit of damage. It also has weird properties where it's treated like an interactable object, as it can be moved around by any attacks and other abilities, while also being able to suck up loot while enemies died from the sucking process. Usually, this ball will travel out and then proceed to pull in enemies. However, you can prematurely detonate it by activating the ability again to cause the suck to happen earlier. Aside from sucking off enemies, with the Augment Coil Recharge, you're able to add different controls to your ball by giving you the option to recall the ball instead of causing it to suck. The Augment also adds more damage to the ability, as enemies are pulled in, will cause the ball to detonate and trigger a discharge. Discharges are only available on her Rotor Swell, the 4th ability, but now also when using this augment. This causes the enemies to suffer even more electric damage with more concentration as they're being sucked off. During my tests of this new augment, I did go through a few Helminth ideas, like Roar, or the usual Pillage or Terrify. But there was something that synergized pretty well, as I was able to armor strip, deal additional damage over time, and crowd control enemies, giving me more survivability with a Phantom Eyes, Jade's 3rd ability. This armor strips enemies over time, while also dealing heat damage and slows down anything that's within its line of sight. It has a 70-degree angle, so it's a conical shape and very generous with its hitboxes. The reasoning for this is because I'll be spamming my 2nd ability a lot to nuke and didn't want to add another ability to my casting rotation, so this keeps it simple. Alright, let's take a look at how I've put all of these things together, starting off with the Archon Shards. I have 4 Tau Purple Shards that give me more ability damage when enemies are affected by the electric status effect, and that's easily done with Gyre's own abilities, your weapons, and even your companion. And the last one being a red Tau for the strength increase to round up my strength. The shard setup is similar to my previous Gyre build, as they fit perfectly for both of these setups. Okay, here we are in the simulacrum, just to showcase how everything works all together. Now remember, you do want to have your Cathode's Grace active at all times, because this gives you that bonus crit chance on the abilities and gives you some juicy energy regen over time. Also, do not forget her passive, because this plays a huge role. The abilities have additional crit chance when enemies are affected by the electric status effect. So this passive and Cathode's Grace, you're able to hit those red crit numbers. So it's more satisfying. And of course, you're able to get electricity procs from various sources. Your companion is able to trigger the electric status effect, which is huge. Your weapons can proc electricity on enemies. So now you have all these sources of electricity. And when you activate Cathode's Grace, I'll be using Xenark real quick. And you kill enemies. Look at that, red crits, all that juice. All the enemies are dead, just like that. And this is your ball, you can play around with it. Kick it around like a soccer ball. Recall it, and cast it back whenever you want. That's pretty much how this build works. Now that you have an idea of the gameplay loop, let's have a look at how I put all of these mods together. And of course, all the utility weapons and the companion loadouts. Alright, here we are in the modding section. I'll be using Arcane Energize for the energy regen upon energy pickups, which is pretty huge, and this pairs really well with Cathode's Grace and its passive. You cannot fully rely on Cathode's Grace all the time, unfortunately, because, well, a lot of ability spams and you will lose energy. So this is a great way to maintain that energy. And then Molt Augmented. After 250 kills, you get 60% strength, which is added on to your modded value. And yes, 115% strength is because of the Archon Shards, so if you skip that section, well, you know why. For the aura, I'll be adding Corrosive Projection. This is going to be reducing the enemy's armor by 18%, and the other reason of using Corrosive Projection is that it synergizes with Phantom Eyes, because it reduces the enemy armor so it has less to strip. And the other cool part about Phantom Eyes is that it is a permanent armor strip. In the X list for the foot maxing mod, Prime Sure-Footed, you're going to be moving around a lot and spamming your epitaph here and there. So if you don't want to get staggered and you don't have Prime Sure-Footed, use Pain Threshold. Pain Threshold gives you that faster stagger recovery. For the strength increases, I'll be running Blind Rage and that juicy Umbral Intensify. Both of these give me a massive increase to our strength. And now you realize why I'm also using Cathode's Grace paired with Energize and the Zenric Focus School. It's because we have negative efficiency, so we want a decent amount of energy to upkeep our abilities. And to upkeep our abilities even more, I do have Primed Continuity. This gives me that juicy 55% duration. That means it has Phantom Eyes last for 46 seconds before I have to recast it. For the 3 dash polarities, pretty obvious. Prime Flow for that large energy pool. Archon Stretch, well, because she deals electric damage, so abilities that deal electric damage also restore energy. For additional range, with this range increase, my Coil Horizon will reach 21 meters. For the deep polarity, I'm going to add some survivability with Prime Redirection. This gives me a massive shield pool of 1,820 from its original 650, as you can see. And the last slot is there for that juicy Coil Recharge Augment. To show you all of this in action once again, you see our companion is triggering electricity on the enemies. Really nice. Using Zenric for that Hardened Wellspring to give us some additional strength. Coil, Armor Strip, Group, and Death. Very simple and powerful, and it is Gyre's second nuke build. Now for the utility weapon. For neutralizing justice, if you're going to take this into a void survival or any corpus mission, void mission, whatever, as long as they have nullifiers, this is really good against those nullifiers. Not only that, it is modded accordingly so it can deal damage to the acolytes. As you can see on the loadout name, Acolyte plus Nully. It has Amalgam Serration for the sprint speed increase, your usual crit chance, crit damage, and the corrosive element. With Fractalize Reset, this does increase my reload speed, which also affects going in and out of Incarnate mode. So the evolutions are simple. We have this one for the Evolution 2, Evolution 3, and Evolution 4. So it adds some damage, utility, and a bit more damage. For my second utility weapon, only for utility, is the Epitaph. You can use the Prime or the regular one. I didn't form on my Prime yet, so I'm sticking with the regular one. As you can see, this loadout is just for Gyre. It is modded for Viral and Electricity. We want to have a lot of electricity here, and of course Conjunction Voltage as the Arcane to give us even more multi-shot when we proc Electricity, and that's easily done with her abilities and even the weapon itself. And finally, for the companion, the best companion in the game so far, the Worm Prime. The Worm is really handy just because of Negate, as this prevents status effects from applying onto you. We have Guardian for the instant shield recharge assault mode because we want our companion to attack. Shield Charger, this gives me a larger shield pool and regenerates my shields over time. Here, Mystic Bond. After your companion casts 5 abilities, you get a free cast on your abilities, which synergizes with my Focus School, and I'll get to that. Survivability alongside Manifold Bond. With the recent update, Manifold Bond now affects Negate, which is a huge W, making this a very solid companion to have for a lot of your missions. Manifold Bond is simple. When you kill enemies with 3 or more status effects, this can come from any source. If you apply it or your companion applies it, boom, it reduces the cooldowns of your companion precepts. And the companion weapon this time is the Tazakor. The Tazakor is, of course, an electric Sentinel Weapon. and it is modded for viral electricity. This is for some additional priming. This is a beam weapon and innate electric. It's pretty much an Amprex. Now, I would suggest if you want this to be a bit better, you can add another dash forma here and there so you can have the primed fast hands so it can reduce that reload speed even further. So it's more consistent with its attacks and priming. And unfortunately, galvanized mods do not work on Sentinel weapons, so we're stuck with the regular split chamber here. And then finally, with the focus school, Zenrik. Zenrik offers two things that are going to be beneficial for this particular build. When I initially cast Cathode's Grace, I want some additional strength with Hardened Wellspring. That's 20% additional strength. However, Energy Pulse and Inner Might are going to be synergizing with the Gyre build even more because Energy Pulse gives me that additional 50% energy upon energy pickup, so even more energy income. And then of course, Inner Might functions like Mystic Bond and even Arcane Steadfast, as it allows you to cast an ability for free every 1 minute. Anyway, folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this Gyre video. Stay tuned for the newer Augment videos. I'm very excited to show you the new Grendel and Hildren builds. Anyway, folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this video. If you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.